Hey everyone, just our notes for today. So, we are going to actually graph lines today using our slope and y-intercept. A very easy concept to do. Again, if you can count blocks and draw a straight line, then you're going to be perfectly okay with this concept for today. So, yesterday we talked about how do you find the slope and the y-intercept of an equation. So, we're going to cover that information again, and then we're going to go about how do we graph it. So remember, your slope, your m, is your coefficient of x. So this is going to be 1/2. My y-intercept is a positive 4. Now remember, slope is my rise over my run. Positive 1, positive 2. So how does all of this fit into graphing? Our starting point is our y-intercept. Now notice it says y-intercept, so that means it's on the y-axis. So I need to find this number, positive 4, on my y-axis, which is right there. So that's kind of like our go in Monopoly. That's where we're going to start. Now, our slope, we're going to rise one block up, and then we're going to run 2 blocks to the right because it's positive 1, positive 2. So we're going to rise 1, run 2. And when we do that, we're going to put a dot right there. Now, we only need 2 dots to make a line. If you can fit 3 on your graph, then by all means do so. But if you cannot, then 2 is all you need. You're going to need a handy dandy ruler of some sort or a straight edge or something, and you're going to want to connect these points together to create your line. So arrows on either end, just like that, and the line should go all the way from one end of your graph to the next so that you can see where it's heading to. And that is really all there is to it. So my slope here is a negative 1, and my y-intercept is a positive 3. So let's talk about that slope for just a second. That slope is a positive 1. Yes. Here's the problem. A negative 1, excuse me, negative 1. So the problem is this. I need a rise and I need a run. You can take any number and create a fraction out of it by putting a denominator of 1 underneath. And then this is 3. So this is going to be my rise, but remember, negative takes me down, and my run, positive, takes me to the right. This is my starting point. So I'm going to go to my y-intercept. Y-intercept is y-axis, and I'm looking for positive 3. And then my slope is going to be negative 1, down 1, positive 1, right 1. So down 1 to the right 1. And I can do that as many times as I want so I can fit on my graph. Down 1 to the right 1, down 1 to the right 1. You don't need all of those dots, but the more you put, the more accurate your line is going to be. So then I'm going to connect these together to create my line, and I'm going to draw arrows on either end to show that it is a line, and it technically would go on and on and on forever. Okay. All right, so let's look at our next one. Number 3. Slope is my coefficient of x, negative 5. And remember, I need it to be a fraction. So negative 5 over 1. Always use a positive 1 underneath. So a negative 5 takes me down 5, and a positive 1 takes me to the right 1. My y-intercept is at negative 3. So this one's going to be a little bit harder to get on the graph. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we can make this work. So negative 3 is here. Now I don't have enough room to go down 5. So here's what I can do. I can actually take this negative and put it down here. Remember, negative 5 over 1 is the same thing as 5 over negative 1. It doesn't change the value. So I can take this and make it 5 over negative 1, which means I can go up 5 and to the left 1. It's going to give me the same line. So I can go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to the left 1. And it's going to give me the exact same line. So the negative can apply to the numerator or the denominator, but it just can't disappear. So if you're having a hard time fitting something on your graph, by all means, just switch the negative to the other number and see how that works. So that should get you at least 1 point on your graph. Okay. All right, so our next one, our slope is negative 7/3. A negative 7 takes me down, a positive 3 to the right. My y-intercept is at positive 4. So I'm going to go to positive 4 on the y-axis. It's always the y-axis. Negative 7 is going to go down 7, positive 3 to the right 3. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then to the right, 1, 2, 3. and that's where I'm going to put my dot. Now I can't get another line on here. I don't have enough room. So I'm going to go ahead and connect those two dots to create my line. And I'm going to put an arrow on either end to get my line. Make sure it's the arrows because it goes on and on and on forever. All right, so let's look at our next one, number 5. All right, so my slope is a positive 2. Remember, we want to make that a fraction, so we can take any number and put a 1 denominator. Positive 2, up 2, positive 1, to the right 1. My y-intercept is at negative 4. So that means where I start on my y-axis is at negative 4. So I'm going to find that negative 4, which is way down here at the bottom. I'm going to go up 2 blocks to the right 1 block. So I'm going to up 2 to the right 1. Let's do that again. Up 2 to the right 1. You can do that as many times as you want to get as many dots as it will fit on your graph. And then again, we're going to connect those in order to get our line. Edge to edge of your graph and arrows on either end. Our next one has a slope of negative 4/9. And this is going to be down 4 to the right 9. My y-intercept is at negative 3. Now this one's going to go off of our graph just a little bit, so we'll make this work the best that we can. But we only go up to 5, and this has a 9 on it. So we'll make it work. So we're going to start at negative 3 here. Now remember, this is negative 4, so that would take us off our graph. So we can do 4 over negative 9 and go up 4 to the left 9. We can do that so that we can have a better chance of staying somewhat on our graph, even though this number is a little bit large for this graph. So we can rise 1, 2, 3, 4, left 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're going to say it's somewhere over here. All right, so we're going to connect those, create our line. Just like that. For most purposes, that won't happen. That's unusual for it to go that far off of your graph. So just be aware that that's not a typical thing. Most of the time, everything stays on your graph for at least 2 points. So don't stress over that one too much. Here, my slope is 1/5. I have a positive 1 and a positive 5. Rise 1, run 5. Our y-intercept is at negative 2, so that's going to be my starting point on my y-axis. And I'm going to rise 1, and I'm going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Puts me right at the edge of our graph. I'm going to connect those 2 points. And we have our line. Last but not least, we have a slope of 1/4. That's a positive 1 and a positive 4. And my y-intercept is at negative 2. So again, that's where I'm going to start on my y-axis. So I'm going to find my negative 2 on my y-axis. I'm going to go up 1 block to the right 4. Up 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're going to connect those 2 points to create our line. And we have the graph. So once you know how to find slope and y-intercept, your y-intercept is your starting point. Your slope tells you how to move, either up and down or left and right to create the next point on that line. I hope everybody has a great day. And this is actually our last new lesson for information for this quarter. So enjoy, and I will give you some information on what's going to be going on for next week very soon. Have a good day, everybody.